how my husband betrayed me. The rain drummed against the windows of the Coleman residence, a modern house tucked into the quiet suburbs of Willow Creek. Inside, Evelyn Coleman stirred a pot of soup on the stove, her mind wandering as she waited for her husband Daniel to return from work. He was late again. She glanced at the door, at the clock, 9:47 p.m. Daniel had always been a devoted husband, or so she believed. For 10 years, they had built a life together, one of love, laughter, and shared dreams. But lately, something had changed. His once affectionate kisses had grown absent-minded. His excuses for staying out late had become more frequent, and his phone, which he used to leave lying around, now never left his pocket. A feeling of unease coiled in her stomach, but she pushed it aside. Maybe he's just under pressure at work, she murmured to herself. At 10:12 p.m., the sound of a car door closing made her heart jump. She hurried to the front door, her mind racing with questions. The door creaked open, and there stood Daniel, drenched from the rain, his tie loosened, and the scent of a faint, unfamiliar perfume clinging to him. "You are late," Evelyn said, forcing a smile. Daniel sighed, rubbing his temple. "Yeah, work was brutal today. Back-to-back meetings." Evelyn studied his face. "You smell different. Did you switch cologne?" His eyes flickered with something. Panic, maybe, but he quickly masked it with a chuckle. "Oh, must have been something at the office. The conference room was packed." A plausible excuse. But then why did his hands tremble as he unbuttoned his cuffs? That night, as Daniel lay asleep beside her, Evelyn stared at the ceiling, her mind replaying every odd behavior he's been displaying in the past few weeks. The canceled dinner plans, the locked phone, the way he suddenly started working out after years of avoiding the gym. Her heart pounded as an idea took root in her mind. She slipped out of bed, careful not to awake him, and pattered softly to where his jacket hung on the chair. Digging through the pockets, her fingers brushed against something small and metallic. A key. Not to their house, not to his office. She knew those keys well. This one was different. Her pulse quickened. What door did he open? The next morning, she decided to find out. Daniel left early for work, as he always did on Thursdays. Evelyn waited 10 minutes after he drove off before grabbing the key and slipping out the door. Her instincts told her that whatever Daniel was hiding, the answer lay in his black BMW. She had never been one to invade his privacy, but today she couldn't resist. She approached the car cautiously, her breath fucking against the crisp morning air. She tried the key in the glove compartment lock. It clicked open. Inside, neatly tucked beneath a pile of papers, was a small velvet jewelry box. Evelyn's hands trembled as she picked it up and flipped it open. A diamond bracelet gleamed under the morning light. Her heart clenched. He hadn't given her jewelry in years. So who was this for? At that moment, a shadow moved behind her. Evelyn gasped and turned around. Daniel stood there, his face a mask of surprise and something darker fear. "What are you doing?" he asked, his voice strained. Evelyn's grip tightened around the box. "I should be asking you that, Daniel." Their eyes locked. The air between them was thick and unspoken words. Daniel took a step forward, but Evelyn stepped back. And in that moment, she knew this was only the beginning. This was only the beginning. Evelyn's heart pounded as she held up the velvet box. The weight of it felt heavier than it should be. "Who is this for, Daniel?" Her voice was steady, but inside she felt like the world beneath her was shifting. Daniel's expression flickered panic, calculation, then a false calm. He let out a short laugh, running a hand through the dark hair. "Eve, it's for you." She narrowed her eyes. "For me?" "Yes." He stepped closer, but she held her ground. "I was planning to surprise you for our anniversary next month." His voice softened, laced with that charm she had fallen for years ago. "I know I've been distant lately, but it's just work stress. I wanted to make it up to you." Evelyn's fingers tightened around the box. The diamonds gleamed in the sunlight, mocking her. A gift? A perfectly reasonable explanation, but something was off. "Then why hide it in your car?" she asked. "Why not keep it at home?" Daniel sighed, rubbing his temple like this conversation exhausted him. "Because I didn't want you to find it before the right time. Isn't that how surprises work?" The words made sense. The logic was there, but her gut twisted. She had a choice: believe him and let it go, or keep digging. That night, Evelyn lay awake again, watching Daniel's chest rise and fall as he slept. His explanation still rang in her head, but something didn't sit right. She turned over and stared at the ceiling. What if he has been telling the truth? She sighed. Maybe she was being paranoid. Maybe stress was making him overthink. But then there was the perfume and the locked phone and the way he had hesitated when she asked about the bracelet. She needed more proof. The next day, she decided to taste him. At breakfast, she casually brought it up. "I was thinking," she said, stirring her coffee. "Maybe we should go on a trip for an anniversary. Since you already have something planned, let's make it special." Daniel froze for half a second. It was quick, so quick that if she weren't watching him closely, she might have missed it, but she did. His spoon clinked against his cup as he forced a smile. "A trip? That's a great idea." But Evelyn caught it. He hadn't asked where. He hadn't even pretended to be excited. It was a reaction, not a response, and that told her everything. That afternoon, as Daniel showered, Evelyn did something she had never done in their 10 years of marriage. She took his phone. Her hands shook as she pressed the power button. A password, of course, but she had watched him unlock it enough times to guess. *1015, their anniversary. The screen lights up, and what she saw made her blood run cold. A string of messages from an unsafe number. "Can't wait to see you tonight." She's not getting suspicious, is she? "You still remember what you promised me?" her breath caught in her throat. Her hands felt numb as she scrolled, looking for something, anything that could give her more. And then one message stood out, a picture. She tapped it, and what she saw made her whole world shatter. Daniel with another woman, her arms wrapped around his neck, their faces close. The timestamp, last night, the night he had told her he was working late. At that moment, Daniel's voice came from behind her. "What are you doing with my phone?" Evelyn turned slowly, gripping the device so tightly. Her knuckles turned white. Daniel stood in the doorway, towel wrapped around his waist, water dripping from his hair. For the first time in their marriage, Evelyn wasn't afraid to confront him. She held up the phone. "Who is she, Daniel?" His face paled. For the first time, he had no lie ready. The silence between them was deafening. The only sound in the room was the faint dripping of water from Daniel's wet hair. Evelyn's hand was steady as she held up his phone, the damning evidence glaring at him from the screen. "Who is she?" "Daniel," she repeated, her voice sharp as a knife. He opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time, the smooth talk, the carefully crafted lies all failed him. His Adam's apple bumped as he swallowed hard. "It's not what you think," he finally managed. But even he didn't seem convinced by his words. Evelyn let out a bitter laugh. "Not what I think? You are in her arms, Daniel. Her arms. You were not here last night while I was waiting for you like a fool." Daniel ran a hand down his face. "Eve, please, let's just sit down and talk about this." She threw the phone onto the bed. "Talk? Like how you talked to her or you lied to me last night?" His face contorted in something between guilt and frustration. "It wasn't serious. It was a mistake. I never meant to hurt you." Evelyn stared at him, her heart aching at how pitiful he sounded. "A mistake? A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is misplacing your keys. Cheating isn't a mistake, Daniel. It is a choice." He reached for her, but she stepped back, shaking her head. "You had a choice every single time you looked at her, every time you texted her, every time you lied to me, and you chose her over and over again." Daniel's eyes filled with desperation. "I still love you, Eve. I don't want to lose you." But it was too late. She had loved him with everything she had, given him years of devotion, trust, and faithfulness, and he had thrown it away. Evelyn took a deep breath, feeling the weight lift from her chest. "You already lost me, Daniel. The moment you betrayed me, you lost me." Tears burnt at the corner of her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She turned away from him, walking towards the door. "Eve, please," Daniel called after her, his voice breaking. She stopped but didn't turn around. Instead, she spoke with a calmness that surprised even her. "I deserve better, and I still do." With that, she walked out, leaving behind the house that once held their love, but now only held the ghost of what could have been. Moral lesson: betrayal is not a mistake, it is a choice. Trust once broken is almost impossible to rebuild. Love is not just about words, it's about actions. And when someone shows you who they truly are, believe them the first time. Thank you all for watching. If you found this story interesting, please do well to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Thank you. See you in my next video.